No, we're fine. Yeah, I don't know if necessarily complaining, but they're definitely there's some certain classes that you need to, like when I teach my stats class, I need like all 3 hours. Yeah. Yeah, but this class, no, it's not that serious at all. Okay, any questions, comments, anything like that? I haven't put the groups together yet. I should do that this week. Um, all the posts look good. Appreciate the effort on the citing. Okay. What's up?
About the citing.
Yeah, I didn't take any points off.
Yes, but
What? What do
I
you?
still don't understand how you want us to do it.
Well, that's the thing. It takes practice because it is an art and a science. So you kind of have to feel your way through as to, when do I use it, right? That's why I don't take any points off because I know it takes time to understand. Like, oh, I need to cite here. I need to cite here. So anything that sounds like a fact or even it's like a statistic, you got to cite. You should cite, right? Um, anything that is reference from another place in your core idea. Excuse me. Let's just say you write a sentence and it's a generalization of something else you read, right? You should cite there also, right? To say, oh, in the book, the project management book, it says that work-based schedules are effective because they help the project manager understand all the tasks that need to be done. You can cite that, all right? And you should cite that. So the reader understands, okay, where'd you get that from? Because work breakdown schedule is something that's an important aspect of project management and something that I can verify as intangible. And I could just go check it out and see what is the definition of a WBS, right? And so if you give the reader a reference that they can go to, all right, then they'll go check it out. But they know that, hey, yes, these are my own words, but the thought or the idea of it came from here, all right. And so you can technically use one reference to cite your whole post. And it depends on how much you're writing and how many you know you want to have more than one reference, but not for your post, not for the situation that we have weekly basis. The book is fine if you find an article you like and it supports your argument, cool, right? But one reference is fine. And then citations. Um, the point is that when you cite at the end of the sentence that you wrote that needs the citation, not at the end of the paragraph per se. All right. And so some people think they write, and then they stick the citation at the end of the paragraph. That citation doesn't necessarily apply to all sentences within that or statements within that paragraph. So every statement that you make that seems like it needs a citation, just put it in there, right? Because you can never go wrong with citing, right? If you put a citation there and I go, that doesn't really need a citation, I would never mark that wrong. I'd be like, well, man, that's okay. They cited, good on them. Good job. But if you don't cite, then there's a problem. But at this level for you guys, I just want you guys to start getting into the habit of it. Because if you decide to go to the next level for your master's, it's going to be critical. You can't write without it. All right. And so I want you guys to get familiar with it and just understand, okay, oh, I remember hearing Dr. K's chatter about APA and citing, and I don't, I kind of understood it, but I don't. But now, okay, let me get more in depth into understanding the nuances of what it's involving. Um, so just keep practicing. If you think it needs a citation, put it in there. Um, and like I said, if anything, go to the APA manual, or I don't know if I told you guys this the other day. You go to Purdue Owl. Did I tell you about Purdue Owl? Okay. Purdue Owl is a website that is maintained by Purdue University. I can't remember if Purdue's at Kentucky or something like that. I can't remember. But basically, the site is made for explaining, showing, demonstrating examples. It'll check your citation for you. It'll do everything. It'll format it. It'll do everything. It's free. It's basically a college resource, a university resource that they have. And you can use it. You just put in what you want, and then boom, it'll do it for you and show you what the proper format is. It'll talk about, when you should cite. And that's why I say get the APA manual, because it's more of a condensed version, and you can actually read through it and get to specific spots. Whereas the website, you kind of got to know what you're looking for, sort of, right? To kind of search through it and like, oh, okay, I'm looking for in-text citations. This has a gazillion tabs on it, and I don't know where, I don't know exactly the jargon that goes with all this, right? So the APA manual is probably a little more useful for people that are just starting out learning how to cite. All right, but you guys did a good job. You know, one, I was just hoping for one. That's all. You guys did good, so I'm happy with that. All right, but just keep practicing, throw it in there. As long as you have your reference list, which is requirement no matter what, you're good. But deciding, just keep practicing, throw it in there when you can. When you think it's appropriate. If it's not, if it's not cited well or enough, or I feel like there's some areas you could have cited more, I'll tell you. But I'm not gonna take any points off. For you guys at this point. Not during this whole semester, this whole session. I'm not taking any points off. I just really want you guys to get comfortable with learning how to do it. Okay? Yeah.
You get like if you write a paragraph
Mm-hmm.
and you get the idea, like a full paragraph is from the one article, and it's okay to cite and then paragraph, or you use
Yeah, if all the sentences are about the same topic.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So you could have an article about cooking, right? But maybe there's one part of it that talks about restaurants, right? How to manage restaurants, and that's the part you're focused on, right? And so you may cite, in your paragraph, you may have a part where you're like, oh, I'm planning on opening a restaurant, da da da. You would cite, the article, right, at that particular juncture. Wherever you made that sentence at, that statement, you would cite there. And then there were more, statements that you made that referenced or talked about, opening a restaurant or managing a restaurant. Cool. But then after that, if towards the end you start talking about, cooking in general and just more pertaining to the article, you'd reference the article at the end. All right. If that makes any sense, or that confuses even more.
What if but even if it's like same person from same article, you still want like two same site?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can cite as many times as you want with the same thing. It's just a matter of if the statements are related, then if it's like 3-4 sentences, and you're talking about managing a restaurant, one citation. But the minute the topic changes, you may need another citation, all right? And it could very well come from the same article because you're using just one. That's fine, all right? But you need to cite at the point of action, the point of where it's happening. All right, kind of like well, I'm not gonna use edge computing because that didn't make any sense to you guys. But at the site at where you said something, boom, you put the citation there. Even if you're gonna cite again after the next sentence, the next sentence could be talking about something totally different. As long as the topic is still along the same vein, it's okay. You can write 6 sentences and it's the same thing. Boom, put that one citation at the end. But if it's not about the same thing, then you might want to cite differently. And if you're using the same reference and you're citing, you could put the paragraph. Like there's this notation to put, same author, year, but then the paragraph you got it from. So that way the author knows, the person reading it knows, okay, yes, it's the same article, but I need to go paragraph 6. I want to see what she's talking about. Where did she get that information from? Because that may be something that's interesting to them that they want to further research or look into. Yeah. So like I said, it takes time. Don't trip. You guys are, doing good. Just keep practicing. And if I see something that totally just sticks out, I'll let you guys know. All right. Week 3. Let's see. Next week, I think we have. Do we have a midterm next week?
Yes, we do.
All right. So get ready. All right, for the midterm, it'll be in here, and it'll be open book, open PowerPoint, just no open internet. That's it. Google cannot help you in this instance. Um, and then I think that's it. Yep. And I said I put the groups together. later on. All right. All right. So this week we're going to talk about estimating project costs and that kind of thing, okay? Which is one of the crucial steps in your project management process, all right? Making sure that you correctly identify the range of where you think the costs are going to be at, all right? Because if you don't do this properly, you could easily find yourself in a position where you have to go and ask for more money, right? And we don't want to do that, all right? We want to make sure we accurately, you know, project or estimate the cost, right? Because that shows that we did a proper analysis. We did a thorough analysis. What tends to happen is when people kind of have an estimate that's under budget, they haven't done a thorough analysis. They haven't really gone through every step and thought about it logically, like, okay, what are some of the things that are gonna pop up, right? And then what's some things that are gonna pop up that aren't necessarily noticeable, right? Or those things that you get from experience, right? That you know, okay, yeah, they didn't account for this, but I know that's gonna happen, right? You know, at some point somebody's gonna get sick and not come into work, right? But you don't know at what point it's gonna be. Now, it could be at a point where you really need them, and it's a crucial juncture where you're turning in deliverables. It could be at a point where nothing's going on, right? But if they're sick, that means they can't do their work, right? And how's that affecting the project, right? How much is that gonna cost me? Right? As far as like, do I bring somebody else in while they're sick? Right? I still have to pay them. All right. Still things still go on. What are some costs associated with that that I need to include, right? In the budget so that when I go in, I've accounted for days lost. Okay. I've accounted for, kind of holidays and that's those kind of things, right? So little things, supplies that, people don't think about, oh, we got to buy pencils and paper and tape and stuff like that. They don't count those things in the budget, but all those things are crucial for business owner. All right. If so, like say for instance, Daisy has the squirt. Right. How much you think it costs Pepsi or Coca-Cola on set to make that squirt? You don't know, right? Okay. What do you think? What cost do you think go into making the squirt? What does it cost? Like the line items themselves, like by name. What do you think goes into it?
Like the items or the
Yeah, yeah, like the not the prices, just the items themselves. So, okay, not the ingredients, right? The ingredients is one thing, so you could just say ingredients, right? And then you say can, right? And then what else goes into? Now think about the product from as a consumer from the final consumption, right? When you go into whatever store to get the squirt, right? What are you expecting? You're expecting a can of squirt, right? All done, closed, sealed, ready to go, right? You're not going in there and then the can's open or it says squirt, right? And that's not what you're getting. You're getting a finished product, right? So think of it from that perspective where you have that product, right? From raw materials to end product, right? What are all the things that go into getting it to the consumer? Okay, it's kind of a marketing thing also, but it's a project management thing also because as a project manager, I got to think about not only the cost of creating or developing the good, but I have to think about the cost of marketing the good sometimes. Right? So as that product there, right, as any other product, I have the cost of materials, right? Cost of goods sold, but what does that include? That includes marketing, right? That includes operations costs. That includes costs for material. That includes costs for compliance. That includes costs for IT, right? And it all design, right? All those costs go into the product, and then it gets kind of divided, right, by per unit, right? It's kind of like you might when you open your restaurant, right? You got cost cards or recipe cards, right? And the recipe cards tell you how much each plate costs you to make, right? And then from there, you got your profit margin, right? So it cost me $1 to make the plate. I'm gonna make it $3, right? So I have a 200% profit margin, right? And so that's kind of the same thing. Whereas a project manager, you think about Matter of fact, cooking is a project, right? Where I'm looking at it and I go, okay, how much am I going to have to mark this thing up in order to make money? Okay. This is why it's important to understand how much the materials cost, where you're sourcing the materials. Are people willing to pay that price, that cost for the material, for the product, right? Because you can cook a gourmet meal, right? It could cost you $1,000 to make a steak, all right? But can you sell it? And what price? And what, what cost are you gonna sell it for? If you sell it for $900, guess what? You just took an L. You just took a loss, right? And that's not what in the business for. So all those things you gotta think about when you're estimating costs from a project management standpoint, all those little intangibles and incidentals and miscellaneous things that a lot of people may miss, right? But as the project manager, that's one of your core responsibilities is to have an accurate estimation, right? And notice I said it's an estimate, right? It's not like, oh, this is it. We're sticking to it. We know what it is. You have an estimate, and then once you have an estimate, you always put about 10% buffer in there. So let's just say you estimate it's gonna cost $1 million for this project. This is including payroll and all this other stuff. All right. You always put 10%. So I'm gonna add another 100,000, maybe $150,000 to that. And then I'm gonna go to the boss and say, hey, this is my budget. This is what I need. Okay. And then you'll have 3 different levels. You'll have, your low estimate, which is like if we do everything efficiently and we do everything perfectly, we can get away with doing it this price. If we do everything, there's some bumps in the road, okay, we do it here. If we totally screw up and then we are the high end, we're behind, materials go up, something happens. On the high end, it'll be this, right? And so you just create this range of, okay, the project is gonna cost us between 900,000 and 1.5 million, okay, or 1.15 million, whatever the case may be, right? And so now there's a range, and then the powers that be can decide whether or not they want to proceed with the project, right? Maybe they didn't have that kind of budget for the project, and they go, okay, well, we got to break it down a little bit more. Tell me exactly where these costs are going so they can see. Or maybe they say, oh, we budgeted 2 million for this, so we'll give you 1.5, 1.1 or whatever it is that you need, and then you can go on and hopefully you come under budget for the whole project. But you definitely want to understand, a lot of the things, and of course it depends on the industry, right? Depends on what's going on in the world, right? Supply management is very much impacted by world events, okay? And so today, well, yesterday too, right? Had super interesting things happen that were just very unusual, which I never heard of, which was kind of crazy to me, right? Did you guys hear about the exploding phones? No? Okay. So Hezbollah, right? Hamas, no, was it Hezbollah, Hamas? Hamas, I think, it wasn't Hezbollah. One of them. Either way, they have these pagers that they use to communicate with each other, right? That's their communication system, right? Somehow, some way, the Israelis got into the pagers and these phones and put explosive devices in them. So yesterday, the pages, all their pages blew up on them, like on Hamas. All their pages blew up, and like a couple of people died, a lot of people injured, right? And they were trying to figure out like who did this, right? And then Israel finally said, "Yeah, we did it," right? And then today they did it to the phones. The medical staff and a lot of people that deal with Hamas and Hezbollah, their phones blew up. And so now they're like, okay, this is it really is some very devious stuff. But it goes to a larger issue, especially for us, right, as project managers, right? As to where in the pipeline did you guys exactly insert these explosive devices? All right. If the phones are coming straight from the manufacturer, right, and it's your project, your thing to manage these phones and these pagers, how did you guys and the company that makes them they're not Israeli. They're not. They're I won't say they're Chinese, right? Well, of course they're Chinese. I'm talking about they make everything, yeah. Right? So they're Chinese. So it's interesting to see from a project management standpoint, like how did this all happen, right? Where's the chain of command or chain of custody, I should say, as to how did the Israelis get enough time to put explosive device in all these phones, right? And the thing was 250 pagers and like 150 phones or something like that, right? But as a company, as a project manager, you got to think about, the impact of your product, right? Also, it's not about just, oh, I'm gonna build something, I have a project, and we're gonna make it. The company's gonna put it out. No, this is your project. This is your thing, right? Think about if you were working on the nuclear bomb or something that affect, right? You're the lead scientist, right? And you're working on something for the government. Yeah, it's the government's, but at the end of the day, they really can't do it without you, right? And so there's some consequences, some things you have to think about as far as to, you know, some of the more ethical issues of surrounded around, being a project manager and making a product that maybe, I have some questions about. They don't align with my values and kind of that kind of thing, right? But either way, um, going back to the cost, right? Just thinking about, what how do I go about forecasting the cost appropriately, right? And making sure that the figure that I come up with is as close as possible to what I need it to be, right? And then the things I need to take into consideration as far as some of the top down or macro and the micro events, right? So the macro really, from project management standpoint, that's more of an issue for kind of the company, okay? Because the company, at the end of the day, as a project manager, you go to the boss and say, "Hey, look, I need XYZ." The boss has to source that somewhere, right? It's not your job to really source that, to source the material. Sometimes it is, most times it's not, right? Once you post a requirement, the company will go get it, right? But that's a macro level because the company may have to go to Africa. They may have to call their contacts in Japan or wherever, say, "Hey, we need a shipment of such and such," right? On a micro level, right, it's more of, hey, boss, I don't have the stuff I need to do this particular task. And like, "Oh, why not?" "Well, I don't know. You tell me." And that's when you go to your boss and go, "Hey, where's the stuff?" "Well, they had that thing happen yesterday, and so they shut down production of that company that we got the stuff from because of what happened yesterday." That's a macro level thing, right? That's a global thing that's going to impact a lot of different. I mean, it's going to impact the world because a lot of people are now going to be scrutinizing everything that they get now, right? If you can't trust your phone, right, which makes it very novel type of attack because aside from seeing it in the movies, maybe, and using the phone as a detonation device, which is the only thing I've ever seen, right? I've never actually seen the phone blow up or someone planted a device in it for the phone to blow up because it's very indiscriminate, right? Some kids died, right? And so you never know who's gonna have the phone, right? So it's interesting thing, but all those particular issues, when you think about it from PM standpoint, is okay. I got to source this stuff. How much is it gonna cost me? Now that this has occurred, I can't go to my number one supplier. I need to go to another supplier. But then the second supplier is also aware of the situation, right? And said, "You know what? I know you can't get this from anybody else. Guess what's about to happen? I'm about to jack the price up on you. Okay? I'm about to gouge you. Okay? So because I know you need it, right? And I'm the only source right now. The other guy or gal, they're fighting for their life to stay in business because that company is going to get scrutinized, right? And so there's a lot of back and forth going on of who blaming who and who did what. Nobody knows for sure. Okay, they just know Israel did it. They claimed it, and that's that, right? But when you look at, hey, I have to make sure that I accurately predict my estimate for my budget for the money. And that means I need to do a very, very good analysis. And that means the people that I have on my team have to do a thorough analysis. And that's why you have the subject matter expert, because you're going to tell me everything that you need from A to Z in great detail and how much you think is going to cost. And that's why I'm going to take your input and I'm going to put in my overall budget. And I'm going to put 10% on that. Okay? Because I don't want to go back and ask for more money. That's not cool. And the boss ain't going to be happy about that. Because it's going to be like, hey, you didn't do a good job estimating, apparently. Okay? You didn't really analyze the requirements properly. All right. All right. So why estimates needed? Good decisions, schedule work, determine length of project, whether the project is worth doing. Okay. Develop cash flow needs and determine how well the project is progressing. Right. All these things serve as metrics as to, or the estimate serve as metrics as to, how well the project is going. Right. Really, at the beginning, the estimates are looking at, is the project really worth it? Right. When we get done with this project, are we going to be in a better position than we are now? Right. The timeline of the project. How long is it going to take? Because by the time you do this project and we get it implemented, it's going to be old technology, right? Or it's going to be old process or old systems. It's, do we really take the money and do that? Let's look at what's the next up and coming thing that hasn't really been integrated or is not super popular, but we know it's coming, is on the cusp of being the next big thing. Let's focus on that. Let this particular thing roll by, unless we see that there's a benefit long term where this particular thing that we get is going to last a long time, right? Or that we build is going to last a long time. Let's just say, for instance, the video with a microchip, right? That microchip that they have is like top of the line, super advanced. It's super expensive. Not a lot of companies can afford it, and it's strictly based for big companies. So I know that, what? If I go buy this microchip, this project that we're working on is long term, and this microchip is not about to be superseded by anything else. Nothing else is coming down the line that's going to be better than this microchip right now. Okay, because we've had huge lapses in creating like microchips that go from processing certain thing here, a certain speed, and then now we're at this thing right here, and you have to look at who's using it and that kind of thing, right? So determining whether the project is worth doing is an essential aspect of your estimate, right? And your estimate will be used in order to assess that determination, right? Is it a smart business move for us to do this right now? Should we focus on other things? What's the climate of the economy? What's the climate of, society in general? Okay. We got to look at all those things. So today we had, the Federal Reserve cut the interest rate, all right, by 50 basis points. Okay. You guys know what that means? No. All right. That's okay. I'm going to explain to you. All right. So when you go, the interest rate is really about the amount of money banks charge each other. It's not about the money It's not about the interest rate they charge you. It's about the amount of money they charge each other to borrow money from each other. That's the interest rate. So when you see the reserve say, oh, we cut it by 50 basis point. So whatever the interest rate was, 7, 8%, that's between the banks to borrow money. They just so happen to pass that on to you as the consumer, right? But it's really about them borrowing money and what rate. So now it's 50 basis points. So basically, the rate's going to go from, I don't know what's that, 6 point something now, 6.5, and it'll go down to 6. Okay, something like that, right? But what that does for the bank is that it allows the bank to lower your interest rate at which they let you borrow money. Okay, because now they don't have to pay as much to borrow from other banks, right? And so they can kind of pass that on to you, and they could be a little more loose with, hey, interest rates and what they charge you to, to borrow money, because that's how the bank works, right? The bank makes money off of us, all right? Whether if you deposit your money in the bank, all right, or if you um go borrow money from the bank, all right, the bank makes money either way, right? Because they take your money and they lend it to other banks or they lend it to other people, okay? But at different interest rates, right? So the Fed cut interest rates today, right? And so as a project manager, they specifically, I'll give you an example. I have a piece of property in Colorado, right? I bought it 2 years ago almost. And at that point, I was going to build a house on it and then sell it, right? And then the interest rates went up. And so I was like, the builder said, you know what, let's just wait. Interest rates are high, construction costs are high because of it. Let's not build right now because you won't make as much money on it. So I was like, yeah, cool, whatever. Right. Now that the interest rates have dropped, or they're going to start dropping even more, we'll probably go in and jump on that project, get it done, sell it, make more profit, right? This is how project managers would come to their boss, right? When if they come with their estimates, that's how they would come like, hey, you know what, the interest rates aren't really good right now, boss. Granted, we could do this project for this much money, but if we wait a year or two, and it's not gonna have a big impact on us as far as like market share, maybe we should wait to this project once the interest rates get lower because now our money will be worth more, right? We could do more with the money because we're not paying as much to borrow. Okay. If we're not paying as much to borrow, that means more money for us at the end as far as the profit. Right. And so those are all the things that the estimate does for the company. Right. Um, Estimates need to determine how long the project should take and its cost, right? Yeah, it should take definitely, right? But the cost is more, what we're looking at, right? You're gonna have time estimates, timeline estimates, and kind of like, okay, the project should take 6 months, 8 months, right? But that again, needs fine tuning. And usually, depending on what type of project it is, you're gonna go over the time. It's very unlikely you're gonna be on schedule. You may, a week or two is fine, but again, depending on the scope of the project, that's going to fluctuate big time. All right, four aspects of estimating, right? The range, number of potential outcomes that could be expected to occur, accuracy, precision, and then confidence. All right, accuracy really the correctness of the estimate. All right, precision, the degree of exactness associated with the estimate, and confidence, the degree of trust one has in the estimate, right? Do you really believe that the estimate that you created is precise and accurate? Okay. It could be close, could be ballpark figure, but if you don't think that it's proper or correct, then you should not present it. You should present the estimate that you think you have the most confidence that you think will happen or occur the most, even if it's you know an assumption or a guess that's not necessarily based on all the information. But this is where experience kind of kicks in for the project managers, where they go, okay, you know what, I know the estimate says 400,000, but I really think it's going to take about $600,000 to do this project. And so I'm going to go with that, right? Let's just say it's going $600,000 because I have the most confidence in that estimate, right? Granted, and that's the programs, the software, all the stuff may say $400,000, but I think $600,000 is more realistic as to, what I feel is going to be, right? And so most bosses will probably go, okay, fine, we'll go with the over more than the under. Okay. It's okay to have more money than you need. It's not okay to have less money than you need. All right. Less money than you need is trouble. More money, you come out looking like a superstar. Okay. All right. I saved a whole bunch of money, boss. Okay. Let me have some. That's what you can need to say. All right. Let's see, this up. Okay. Factors influencing the quality of estimates, right? Planning horizon, project complexity, people, structure and organization, padding estimates, organizational culture, and other factors. Okay. So when you look at the planning horizon, you're really looking at, okay, how much time do I have, right? What's the long-term outlook of, when we're looking to get done and what it is that we're trying to figure out, right? Project complexity, again, speaks to how complicated the project is, right? It's a bunch of rocket scientists, or do I have a bunch of, I don't know, um, kindergartners that I'm working with, okay? The people, right? Probably one of the more important aspects, like, do I have all the skill sets that I need within my crew, right? Within the team, right? Marketing, engineers, computer scientists, cook, chef, designers, whoever it is that I need, right? I have to make sure I have all the people. The structure and organization, again, you'll decide on that, based on the resource that you have in the project itself, right? Padding estimates, just like I talked about, right? Every estimate, you should always include a 10% buffer in there, okay, at least, right? All right. Some people do 5, but I do 10. All right. Just even if it's time, it's money, whatever it is. Okay, people. If I think I need 15 people, I'm gonna add 10% more. Okay, so and I'm gonna round up. I need 17 people. All right. They be like, okay, that many? Yep. Not 15, not 14. No, I need 17 people. Because if you ask for 17 people, what are you gonna get? What do you think you're gonna get? No, you're gonna get 15, maybe 14, right? You always overestimate because it's kind of like when you go to the store and you're haggling, right? Always go over. Like, oh, so how much you want for that? 800. That's too much. Okay, what do you want to give me? I give you 750. 775. Right? The whole time, all you needed to sell it for was $700 to make money. Right? But you start high because you know the person's gonna tell you, like, no, because they're trying to get a deal too. At least what they perceive as a deal. Right? And this is the beauty of marketing. This is the beauty of profit, marking things up, right? You know how much it costs, right? But they don't really know how much it costs to make, right? And so you have a little wiggle room. And I'm sure you guys have experienced this when you go to the car dealerships, right? Or you go buy stuff. You just go back and forth, right? And there's a point to where the person selling the good or the item, they know what point it is that they can say anything they want. Like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna start at 1,000 because I know you're going to try to talk me down, right? And so it's the same thing in project management. When you go and ask for your resources, you always go high because you know the boss is going to go, yeah, we don't have that many people. You want 19? We're going to give you 17. All right, fine, boss. I'll take 17. You just really needed 15, but you're going to get 17. Cool. You're happy, right? But you got what you need. And the only way to do it is to really put a buffer in there because you have to make sure that you plan for the unexpected, right? It's okay to have unexpected things happen, but you need to be prepared for those things, right? It's inevitable something's going to come up that you didn't plan for. But as long as you're prepared for those unexpected events, you're good, right? And you don't have to have a plan, like specific plan for it, but you know in the back of your head, like, okay, I think this is going to happen or has the likelihood to happen. I'm prepared for it because I got John on the team, and John, he knows about this thing here, right? That may or may not happen, right? But I'm prepared. I'm ready for it, right? Kind of like hurricane, tornado, right? I don't know, if it's gonna happen. Hurricanes don't happen here in California because the water's too cold and it's hot and all this other chemical scientific stuff, right? But you never know, right? Climate change, but we for sure know earthquakes are gonna happen. All right, it happen all the time. And people have kits and what they call bug out bags, right? To grab. Earthquake happens, I'm prepared. Do I know when it's gonna happen? No. If it's gonna happen, I don't know. Right? But I'm prepared for it. Okay. And so it's the same mindset you gotta have when you're padding. All right. Organizational culture plays a huge role, right? Again, we kind of talked about this last. Oh, actually, that was my other class. But organizational culture plays a big role in um, influencing, the estimate because you may have a company that they're really tight, they're really cheap, okay, they're very frugal, all right. And so when you got projects, you may not necessarily have all the money that you need, right? So for instance, you guys are often with the Chargers, right? The football team that used to be here in San Diego. Okay, do you guys know why they left? Okay, that's this because the city wouldn't build or contribute to building a new stadium for them, right? But it's not that the city didn't want to. The amount of money that the Chargers wanted was crazy, right? But why they said no is because the Spanos who owned the Chargers, right? They wanted a crazy amount of money from the city. And the city said, nah, we can't do that. But the Spanos in general, they were a very cheap and frugal family, right? And so they didn't want to spend a bunch of money on the Chargers because the Chargers was not their main business. The Chargers was more of a kind of a tax write-off for them. They were in construction. That's how they make their money. Chargers was something that was an opportunity they bought. They was like, okay, shit, we on a football team. There's a lot of things we can do. We can write stuff off, and that's exactly what they did. But they wouldn't put a dime into the Chargers. Okay, they were putting a dime, and people that worked there and were associated with the Chargers, they would tell me this because they were like, we had this project they wanted us to do, but they gave us $2, but they want a $20 project. They want a $20 sandwich, and they gave us $2. And say, hey, make a filet mignon steak sandwich with lobster and all this other stuff. We got bologna and ham and cheese. That's all we got. Okay, for $2. So the culture matters when you're doing the estimates because you may have a leadership that is very either cheap or maybe the leadership is like, you know what, spend as much as you want, right? Kind of like the Dallas Cowboys, sort of, right? Jerry Jones, everybody, he's the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. He'll spend money. He don't care. Like if he thinks it's worth it, I don't care. This guy's the Gatorade guy and he wants $1 million. Give him $1 million. He's important. We need him. Okay, he don't care. He'll give it to him. Right. Well, other teams are like, yeah, he's the Gatorade guy. We're gonna find somebody else for $100,000. Okay, we're not gonna spend $1 million on the Gatorade guy. All right, we'll go find Bobby Boucher or somebody from you guys. Have you seen Waterboy? You guys ever seen Waterboy? Oh, oh gosh. You guys know who Adam Sandler is? Adam Sandler? Oh Lord have mercy. He just had a Netflix movie,
Oh, yeah.
probably what, a couple of years ago. Jules? No, what's it called? Oh, what's the name of that movie? Jennifer Lawrence. No, Jennifer Lawrence was in there. Which? No, not Jennifer Lawrence. I know which girl you're talking about. I can't remember the name.
Oh, I know.
You know Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched the movie yesterday.
With Adam Sandler in it? What was he? What was his character? You can't. What'd you say? Jennifer Aniston. That's right. Jennifer Aniston is in the movie. Oh, that's not the latest movie. Well, that is the latest movie, huh? With him and they're married and they're on vacation or something and they end up in trouble. Yeah. So that's Adam Sandler. But one of Adam Sandler's first movies is called The Water Boy. Okay. You guys need to watch The Water Boy. Watch The Water Boy. Okay. It's ridiculous. It's funny. It's stupid. But it's a funny movie. Okay. Got all kind of craziness in it. It just all right. So he's a good. I give him $100,000. Okay. I might give him $1 million because he's good. All right. So check that out. Okay. Little pop culture. All right. Let's see here. All right. Some guidelines for time, cost, and resources, right? So responsibility, the use of several people estimate, normal condition, time units, independence, contingencies, risk assessment is added to the estimate to avoid surprises to stakeholders, right? Okay. So definitely looking at responsibility, right? What is it that is it within my scope of responsibility as the project manager, right? What am I exactly on the hook for? Right? The use of several people to estimate, right? You never ever, I don't care if you're the boss, I don't care who you are, all right? You never plan in a bubble, okay? If you are doing a project or something that involves other people, right? And they're going to be affected by, or they're going to participate, you never plan in a bubble, okay? You should always plan, but then let somebody else look at it too. Or you guys plan in parallel. Hey, this is the goal. Give me your plan. I'm gonna come with a plan and give me your plan. Tell me what your approach is. And that way we can sit down and kind of look at the different approaches and figure out, okay, oh, I didn't think about this, or I didn't think about that, right? And you didn't think about this, or I didn't think about that. Oh, that's why your estimate's lower than mine because I added this in there and maybe we're not doing that, right? You always want to have more than one set of eyes on your plan, right? And never fall in love with your plan. Okay. It's okay to like it, but don't fall in love with it. Okay. Because you fall in love with your plan, you're gonna fail. Right? Because plans are just guidance. Right? It's just something for you to refer back when you kind of lose your way, you go back to the plan and go, okay, what was I supposed to be doing here? All right, fine, I'll do this, right? Um, but when you fall in love with your plan, you become rigid because you're so stuck to the parameters that you set already, right? And it's not gonna go well because if you can't be adaptive to the circumstances that are happening around you, right, you're going to have a problem. Your plan's gonna fall flat and you're gonna fail, right? Because you have to be able to adapt. There's no plan that doesn't change or doesn't flex or doesn't go to plan, right? There's no such thing as a perfect plan, right? On paper, it looks good. Execution time, you forget about it. Okay, the plan pretty much goes out the door because you have people involved. The only time plan is perfect is when you have a machine. All right, you put input A, output B comes out. Okay, it does exactly what you tell it to do in the most transactional form because it has no other choice. I give you the same thing, ain't no time I'm gonna get. Right, because you're human, you got 50 trillion different ideas, different ways to do it. I didn't give you any instructions. Even if I did give you instructions, you're not reading it the same way I'm reading it. There's a bunch of stuff that goes into it, right? So you want to definitely use as many people as you can to get the estimate so that you can see, okay, if the estimates are all relatively close together, right, in the same range, then okay, we've done pretty good. We've kind of looked at all the same things. If your one estimate's $1 million, the other estimate's $500,000, and the other one estimate's $2, there's some problems, right? Which estimate is correct? What are you looking at exactly? What am I missing that you're not, or vice versa, right? And trying to figure out, okay, how maybe we take all three plans, we merge them as a hybrid, and then we come up with a range or an estimate. Or maybe we just say, you know what, we're all of us are wrong. We need to start over from scratch and kind of look at this a little differently because we're not getting the estimates together. So it's kind of like a checks and balances, sort of, when you have more than one person looking at the estimate. Normal conditions, I don't know what they're talking about there. Time units, right? Just looking at basically the amount of time it's going to take for each task, each responsibility, the amount of time it's going to take for, the project itself and all this other stuff, right? So time units is important, in the sense of your planning, but think about all the projects that were in motion prior to COVID, and then COVID hit and then everything just stopped, right? And so those project timelines got pushed back big time. A lot of people, right, dropped out of school, right, who would have been done with school if if COVID had happened, right? They lost their momentum, or maybe they just got sick, whatever the case may be, and now they're 2 years behind in life, sort of, right? And that's kind of what happened to us during COVID. Everybody became 2 years, or the world became 2 years or so behind in kind of where we should have been, right? And so now our economy is coming back. People are starting to get back out and traveling. Again, they're going to visit each other, and even more so now because a lot of people feel like they missed out during COVID because they were inside the house and they couldn't do nothing, and so now they're going on a rampage and just acting up. Okay, and so time units are important. Independence, right? How much leeway do I have to kind of do what I need to do? Right? Do I need to report in every 2 seconds to the boss? All right. Most times, project managers have a lot of autonomy to kind of do their thing. The independence part really comes in as to how much independence do I give the project members, right? And me as a PM, I give the project members a little bit of leeway as long as it's in their area of expertise. Okay, I kind of let them do their thing. The minute they kind of step out of their lane, where it's like, I'm not really understanding why you said this, or this doesn't make any sense. This has nothing to do with what you really do, especially if it's not related to the project or it doesn't make any sense for the project. I understand it's a suggestion, but it's not a suggestion that I would take from you, right? Or I don't want you doing certain things, right? So especially when it comes to money, right? Remember last week I told you, hey, for the most part, members should have a threshold of maybe $500. You can buy anything you want for $500. Anything over that has to come through me. I have to approve it. And even if you buy something and it's less than $500, you still have to document it and you still have to notify me as an FYI. Like, hey, I bought 1,000 screws. It was $499. Cool, right? Because I'm managing the budget. You're not. You're managing your pot of money, not the budget, right? So independence is a big deal, and it really is relative to how comfortable you are, right? You may look around and go, I got the Three Stooges and the Seven Dwarves on my team. I'm not letting them out my sight, right? I got to micromanage these people like nobody's business, right? I got to tell them what to do. I got to tell them when to wake up. I got to tell them when to go to sleep. I got to tell them, how to turn it in, right? And so you may not want to give them as much autonomy or as much independence to make decisions because you're not sure about their decision-making abilities just yet, right? So you keep that to yourself, all right? Contingencies, all right? These contingencies really go in line with the padding, all right? When I pad or when you pad, you're really thinking about, okay, what are the things that may come up, right? Maybe I have to pivot. I was going to go in this direction, but this is not going to work because I'm missing this particular part or I can't get it. I need to pivot. What's my contingency plan? Okay. If there's a fire right now, right? We're on the second floor, whatever floor this is. All right. Um, Normally we'd use the elevator maybe to go up and down, right? But because of the fire, the contingency plan is to use the stairs. We go down the stairs, but there's a plan in place, right? Just in case. And you'll have a couple contingencies depending on what the project is and depending what it is that is expected to go wrong or maybe could go wrong. Okay. Risk assessment. Okay. Again, something that is part of project planning and part of any planning, right? You always do a risk assessment to see, what areas do I need to worry about, people getting hurt or the project's going left or whatever the risk is. Have a risk assessment plan and have a mitigation plan. So basically, it's a risk and mitigation plan. They kind of go together, right? And it's usually in a format of a matrix, right? You have the risk, you have the level of risk, and you have the mitigation, right? Oh, mission creep is the risk. Out of 1 to 10 scale, it's it's the 6, right? Halfway chance of happening, a little bit more than half, right? How do I mitigate that? I mitigate that by making sure that all new ideas or new change or deviations from the original plan are approved me and me alone, right? So it has to come through me. If there's any changes that you make, I need to know about them, right? And if I don't like the change, then I say, nope, don't do that change. Stick to the original plan. But the way I control it is through making sure that everything gets routed through me, right? So that will be physically written. All changes must be routed to project management for approval. Right? You'll see it on the matrix, right? The risk is mission creep or mission scope or your mission scope creep. The risk is a 6, more than likely to happen or have, it's more than 50-50. And what do I do about it? All right. To make sure that that doesn't happen. All right. And that way you have an idea about the risks that are associated with your project and, what it is that we have in place to make sure that we can handle the risk, right? We can minimize and mitigate the damage that the risk may cause. All right. Well, and risk assessments are very template and boilerplate. Now you can get one off the internet and just boom. It's not anything that really that you have to put a lot of thought in because there's pretty much been a risk assessment for everything. Every project's been done. So you just can kind of go and use the one. You can use the one from the last project, even if it wasn't the same. You just change a few things because the process is still the same. It's still a project, regardless, right? It's still a process. So as long as it's a process, the risks are usually the same, right? Because it's always cost, time, resources. Right? Those are the things that are most important in any project, in any plan. So those things don't change. So the risks aren't going to change too much. It just on the industry and some of the nuances of that particular industry that might change. Where it's like, okay, we're sourcing these microchips from Taiwan, right? What are some of the risks associated with that, right? And then the higher you go, or the more complex the project or the item, um, the more things you have to consider as far as risk goes, right? So if I stick with the Taiwan example, I'm gonna get microchips from Taiwan, right? But that may have an impact, right? The risk is that I may piss China off. And so if I piss China off, China may go to the government, the US government, and say, hey, look, this company is buying stuff from Taiwan past a lot of the amount that we agreed upon, or more than we're comfortable with. Because China thinks Taiwan is part of China. All right. So there's a big fight in the China Sea for Taiwan, right? And so Taiwan's like, no, we're our own country. China's like, no, you belong to us. Right. So it's a big deal. China's always threatening to invade, but we're not gonna let that happen because Taiwan is too important to our economic growth, right? Globally, because Taiwan makes microchips. Right. And so they're gonna protect that by all means. They're not gonna let China take control, right? Between China, Russia, United States, Europe in general, all the superpowers, Africa, they always fight about stuff, right? Natural resources, who controls what. This is my island, it's closer to me than it is to you, right? The Philippines is a whole nother ball game, right? Uh, it goes on and on. The list is just infinite, right? But the risk assessment gets a little more detailed the higher you go, and if it has geopolitical impacts. Okay, how's it going to impact? Where is it going to impact? Who is it going to impact? All right, top-down estimates or estimating top-down versus bottom-up. Right, top-down usually derived from someone who uses experience or information to determine the project duration, total cost, or sometimes made by top managers who have very little knowledge of the component activities used to complete the project. Bottom-up can take place after a project has been defined in detail, can serve as a check on cost elements in the WBS, and provide the customer with the opportunity. Let me see what this says. It's over. To compare the low-cost, efficient method approach for any imposed restriction. All right, so really the big difference between top-down and bottom-up is basically top-down is done by the senior leadership. They go, okay, we got this project we're thinking about doing. We think it's going to take $3 million. They really don't know. They're just estimating based on what they think they know or what they heard or somebody told them, right? They have some knowledge about some of the higher level, macro level stuff that they know they have to do, but they really don't have a big idea. The bottom up is a little bit more detailed and probably a little bit closer to what it's actually going to be, because that's done after we do the analysis. After we go in and I say, hey, you guys, this is the project. I need to come up with an estimate on time and cost. Give me your estimates on your particular part of the project. All right. And then I'll take that. All right. I'll put that together and then I'll shoot that up. Right. But this one's coming top to me. I'm going bottom to them. Okay. So then for me, I get the estimate from you guys, right? It's the same thing. You guys are the bottom. You guys forward your inputs or requirements as far as time and budget. And then I put that all together. I forward it up to the boss, and the boss says, okay, cool. And they forward it to their boss, the CEO, whoever, and the CEO will look at it, or the CFO, whoever, will look at it and go, okay, we can do this. All right. And then they'll come back and say, cool, here's the $4 million, $3 million, whatever the case may be. Boom, there you go. The opposite is you got a $3 million budget, make it happen. Right? If it comes from the top going down, right? Basically the leadership has says there's $3 million left over, do your best. Okay. We don't know how much it's gonna cost. We don't know anything. We just know we got $3 million and that's your budget. So we'll see what we come up with. Okay. So they both have their advantages, but typically, unless the project has been done already or there is a specific budget constraint, right? Because we may get a government contract or any contract for that matter, and the contract says the contract is for $5 million. Okay. You go to your team and go, hey, from a project standpoint, all right, we need this project to be $3 million. So you have a $3 million budget, right? Because out of the 5 million, we got to take 2 million as a company off the table already. Make sure we gonna make some money off of this, all right? 3 million, make the project happen to the project specifications based on the scope. All right. And that's the key, is to take that $3 million and make sure you meet the client's requirements, right? Because the client, don't forget, gave you 5. Okay. You got exactly, you got a $5 million job, right? Even though you took 2 million off the top already and put it away, you gave the project team 3 million to make it happen, right? And that's how business goes. That's how most contracts go, right? Especially government contracts, right? The government gives you a certain amount of money. The company takes, something right off the top, and they give the rest to the project manager and say, make the project happen. And then they do their best, and they'll come back and say, we need more money. So they'll go into the $2 million. Okay, here's another 100,000, 200,000, all right? And then even then they'll be like, did you use all $3 million? Like, yeah, I used all $3 million. Okay, no problem. All right, because we kind of already took some money off the top, all right, and now we need to deliver the product, all right, make sure we deliver the product when we said we're going to do it. So it really depends on the company, the available resources, and that kind of thing as to whether or not it's top down or bottom up. All right, the leadership will decide for the most part. I typically don't see companies give project managers that kind of leeway, right? Um, they usually always have a figure in mind, unless it's an internal project, and then they may say, you know what, we have to upgrade all the software. How much is that going to cost? What's the timeline on that? All right, give me an estimate. Right, that's internal. But externally, usually, you when you go into the store and you buy something, most time you have a figure in your head, right? I'm not gonna pay more than $150 for these pair of shoes, or, to get my hair done, or whatever the case may be, right? And if it's over that, you're kind of like, well, why is it so much? All right? It's normally 150. Why is it 200 a day? All right? You didn't estimate for that. You estimated for 150. And so you go in with a set price already, set, cost. All right. And so that tends to work. But then when you go with a set cost, what happens is, in the mind of the hairdresser, is that, oh, you only want to pay 150. I'm going to give you 150's worth of work. Right. That's the problem with announcing the budget. Right. That's what they tell you when you go buy a new car. You guys ever bought a car before? Yes. Okay. So what was the first thing the dealer asked you? Yeah, he asked you your budget, right? Or the famous question is, what do you want your payments to be? Right? Why do you think he's doing that, or she's doing that? Heck no. Ain't worried about your car. Ain't worried about you. I'm trying to figure out how much money I can get you for. Okay? All right. Because if you say you want your payment around this figure, right? Okay, cool. I can get you any car you want within that price range for the most part, right? I can even get you a Lamborghini. You say you wanted $40 a month? Yeah, I can make that happen. All right. It'd be a 15-year loan. All right. But I can get it for you. All right. I can get it for you, right? And you're like, oh man, that's great. Because your focus is about the payment. Right? You're not worried about the how long it is and all the interest you're gonna pay and all that stuff, right? But that's the car game. That's why they ask you that. All right. That's why it's smart when you go buy a car, you go and you get a pre-approved loan. I got $40,000. I don't care how much the payment is. I care about the out the door price, including tax, title, all that stuff, right? I need it to be $39,999 because I need $1 to buy a taco. I'm getting hungry after all this nonsense, right? So that's how you go in to buy a car. You don't go in and tell them, oh, I want to pay me $300. They'll make it happen for you. Okay? Whatever they need to do, easy. You go in, I got 25,000, cool. They'll take you around to all the $25,000 cars. Right? There's no hassle, there's no fight, there's nothing. Because they're like, okay, yeah, they're like, okay, well, you got $25,000, right? Okay, you can buy this Hyundai here, you can buy this Camry, you can buy, all right, don't look over there because you can't. The Lambos out, you can't get that, okay? We're out of pocket for that one, okay? All right. What time is it? 3:42 already? Dang it. All right. Keep moving, which is good. All right. Let's see here. All right. I need that. Okay. All right. All right. The preferred approach in defining the project, right? Make rough top-down estimates. All right. Like it says, the preferred approach, right? Notice it says top-down estimate. Okay. Again, most times the leadership does not give their project management that kind of leeway to make those decisions. They will decide as to how we're going to do this, okay, or how much money we think is going to take, right? And then they may say, look, um give us your estimates, right? And then they'll go, yeah, your estimates are way over what we estimated, so you need to take some stuff out, cut some stuff in half, I don't know, cut your staff, but you're not going to get $5 million. We have $3 million budgeted, right? Again, top down estimate. Develop the WBS OBS, the work breakdown schedule or the operations breakdown schedule, right? Make bottom up estimates. Okay, there you go. That's your turn now. Tell me what it is you think. All right. Develop schedules and budgets. Reconcile difference between top down and bottom up estimates. All right. So this is where we sit down, we talk. My bottom up estimate was 5. Your top down was 3. Guess who's gonna win? More likely the top down. Okay. The boss is gonna win and go, hey, I got 3 million. Can you do it? Right. Most project managers, guess what they're gonna say? Yeah, I can do it, knowing they can't do it, but they're gonna say yeah because you don't want to tell the boss no. You're gonna do your best, but you may have to come back to the boss and go, hey, I said I could do it for 3, but I'm gonna need 3. I need another $100,000 or another $500,000. Okay, so it's definitely a fight. What's going on with this? Excuse me. Now you gotta stop yawning, but you making me yawn. Right? I'm in the process of moving. Yeah, so it's not. Yeah, I went to LA yesterday. Had to pick up some furniture. It was a harrowing ride. It was a crazy ride. I bought my friend's van and I looked like a creepster to begin with. It's one of those kidnap vans. One of the white ones, got no windows, got the little door that slides, snatch them up and just throw them in there. And he uses it for construction and maintenance and stuff. And so I get to the place to pick up, and it's a sofa sleeper. It's not super big, but it's big enough. And it's in this huge box. And they try to put the box in the van. Like, this ain't gonna fit. So I said, take it out of the box and put it in the van. It'll fit then. Like, no, we don't be responsible. You take it out the box, then if something happens to it, we're gonna be responsible for it. Like, it's mine. It's going into my place. No, 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 we're not gonna do that. And I couldn't get him to do it because I need them to help me put it in the van. I was there by myself. So I said, fine. They said, well, we'll put it on the top of the van. I was like, oh, great. So they put it on top of the van. They tied it down with rope. It was really tight. It was good, right? And then about 30 minutes into the ride, I'm just cruising along. I look back and I see this cardboard just kind of hit another car behind me. Like, where's this cardboard coming from? I was like, oh, it's coming from my sofa sleeper. Oh, so I stopped the truck and stopped the van, pulled over to the side of the road, almost died because the truck is zoom, they just zooming by. I'm on the 5, coming from LA. And I look, the box is getting like torn apart by the rope. The rope is digging into is cutting the cardboard basically in half. I'm like, this thing is gonna slide off and it's gonna hit somebody's car. It's gonna be a sofa sleeper. It's not gonna be cute. So this whole time, I stopped 5 different times. It took me 3.5 hours to get back because I kept stopping because I was nervous. I didn't want it to fly off the roof, right? And just that's not cool. So I had my buddy had this towel in his van. I took the towel, I tried to tie it down. He had another strap, I tied it down. He had a scarf, I tied it everywhere I could tie it. It looked stupid. It was like the car was just flapping the towels, and I was like, I don't care. People honking at me. I'm going 50 miles an hour because I'm so nervous. But yeah, so um, yes, I'm tired. Okay, and I don't actually move till tomorrow. I
Why do you have to go all the way over there to pick it up though?
because I have a friend of mine who's interior designer, and I got my furniture, really high-end furniture, really cheap, but I had to do it through her business. But her business, because it's a business, it only goes business to business. So that means it goes to a commercial loading dock. They won't deliver it to a house because they don't deal with individual customers. They deal with businesses. And they don't have a distribution center here in San Diego, so I had to go pick it up there. Yeah, it's just all kind of stuff. I was like, it wasn't worth the extra savings I had for the heart attack I just had. Yeah, it was terrible. And I was by myself. I was like, this is not, man, I may not make it into class tomorrow. Methods for estimating cost, project time and cost. All right, top-down approaches. All right. What I'm gonna say about this is basically really whatever the project manager deems as the most appropriate way to handle it is how it's gonna go. Okay, there's no template. There's no like perfect way to do it. It's just a matter of, hey, project manager looks at the project, thinks about who's in charge and who they have to go ask and deal with, and they'll figure out, okay, maybe I have a consensus method, right? Which I don't recommend. Okay, don't ever. I'm telling you right now, don't ever do the consensus method. Okay, and everybody understand by the consensus method? No? Okay, so basically the consensus method is that, let's just say we had to make a decision in class, right? And we were democratic. It's really more democratic than anything else, right? Before we can come into to a decision, we will all have to agree on something, right? Let's say we want something to eat. You want Italian, you want Mexican, I want, Caribbean, whatever. Okay? Somebody's got to budge. Okay, we can't have all three. We don't have the kind of money. Right? We're poor college students, we're struggling, we're just trying to make it through. We got study session, we gotta eat, pick something, right? What do you want? I want Japanese. Oh, okay. What do you want? I want Mexican. Let's decide. Hour goes by, no one's willing to budge. Okay. So the consensus method is a problem because now I have to get everybody on board. And that if you have a team of people, they all have different tastes, they all have different approaches. It's not the best way to do it, right? It kind of is like how Congress and the Senate and the government operates, right? Depending on what it is, whether it's a simple majority or a two-thirds majority, whatever it is, right? But the consensus method wouldn't do that, right? Ratio method might be okay, okay? Where hey, I get a portion of or a portion method, I get a certain amount of people to say, look, if 50% of the people say, they want it, or 60% say they want it, that's what we're gonna go with. Okay. Um, learning curves, function point, bottom up approach, template method, right? Parametric procedures apply to specific task. So parametric just means that there's rules. It's certain things that it is kind of it behaves in a certain way. Okay, this is more of a statistical term, right? Something parametric. It means there's rules, there's assumptions, there's things I can say about it that will not change. Okay, and then range estimating again. That's just me trying to figure out, okay, low, middle, high. Okay. All right. A portion method of allocating project costs, right? So here I got a portion method for each particular area, right? Out of 50,000, $500,000 total project cost, right? Designs getting 20%, programs getting 30, test 40, document 5, and then produce CD5. And then within each one, broken down a little bit more, each department 1, 2, 3, 4, each one and even more so down here, right? So basically you give everybody a slice of the pie, right? And then kind of let them go or understand that's what they're gonna get for that particular part. If they go over that, then they're kind of out of luck, right? Um, function point, excuse me, count process for prospective project deliverable. Basically, you count the number of inputs, outputs, files, interfaces, right? And then you go low, average, high, right? So inputs on average, as a low estimate, I have 2 inputs. Okay, and when I mean inputs is like if I'm making a cake, salt and sugar, those are inputs. Okay. But I know I have more than that for a cake, right? I have salt, sugar, flour, baking soda, whatever, depending on the type of cake I'm making, right? So you're having, however many inputs, but at the bare minimum, I need egg, sugar, salt, and flour, right? So that's low. The average ingredients for cake is 5 to 6, maybe 7 ingredients. On the high end, depending on what kind of cake I'm making, it could be 10. Okay. And that's all it is. Number of outputs, same thing. Inquiries, files. And then I kind of have a weight, sort of, right? And I multiply by the cost that I think it is, or the weight to each one. Okay. Let's see. All right. So the output's 15, inputs 15, outputs 5, inquiries 10, 30 files, and 20 interfaces, right? And then you come down here, you have to count. And then on the low end, it'll be 30. On the average end, it'll be 30. On the inquiries here, before average, it'll be 40, and so forth and so on, for a total of 660. Okay. And then that just gives you an idea of a range to say, so this is probably a range from 0 to 1,000. Okay. And so from a 0 to 1,000, 0 meaning that it's not complex at all, or I don't it's not that it's not complex. It's the complexity is low, right? 1,000 means like it's super complicated, right? This is 660. So it's somewhat complicated, but not too hard, right? We're at 660, right? And so it gives you an idea about, hey, how hard is a project going to be in general, right? Based on each particular input from each area that's involved, right? And you get an overall complexity for the project, right? But you can see if you break it down per area, as far as the inputs, outputs, and that kind of thing, right? You see the interface, the files, although on the high end it's 12, it's 360. It's not really that, but it's kind of high, right? Inputs is 30, right? And that's on the low end, right? And so you'll notice that each one is kind of, for this example, they're just kind of looking at each one. They didn't give you all of them, because normally you would give all of it, all the low end, all the average end, and all the high end, right? And that's where you would create your range, because I wouldn't just have one number, right? It wouldn't just be 660. It'd be, the count for the low, the count for the average, and the total count for the high, right? And then the total count in general. Okay, good. All right. Again, all this stuff is done in the software. You're not gonna do any of this stuff. The soft you just kind of put in the inputs. It'll ask you all these questions. Boom, and it'll tell you exactly what you're looking at. And in many instances, and if you use this particular process, if you use this method, then cool. But you may not use this method, right? You may very well go, you know what? I don't need I don't need to do it per se. Because some projects, not every project requires you to do every step of project management. That's what I'm getting at. All right. All right. So range estimating, looks like this is time. That one looks like it's time here. Okay. Low days, yeah. Low estimate days, average estimate days, high estimate days, right? And then the range and then the risk level, right? So you can see where they have for event rehearsal, right? On the low end, it'll take us 2 days. On average, it takes 2 days, but if we have a kind of slow rehearsal, it'll take us 5 days to rehearse the whole thing, right? And all these timelines, they kind of go into estimating, okay, when is the movie coming out? When is, like anybody here watch Game of Thrones? No? You guys didn't watch Game of Thrones? Too much? All right, fair enough, fair enough. I can understand that. I love Game of Thrones, but it is a lot. All right. Breaking Bad? Okay, how about uh Yellow Jackets? No? Okay, what shows do you guys watch? Grey's Anatomy, but you don't watch Game of Thrones, but you watch Grey's Anatomy? You like the drama, huh? All right, what do you watch, Daisy? Because my Eagles like drama, apparently. Huh? Drama, comedy. But what specific? What, give me one show. Like Real Housewives of San Diego? Like, what do you... No? Don't know? Okay. Either way, right? When they're filming the shows and they're doing all these, like when you're waiting for the next season, this is kind of how they do their planning, right? And understand and kind of let the public know, like, hey, the next season is going to be out in a year and a half. And you're like, why does it take so long? Right? Because everybody has the different schedules, right? If certain actors, they're in high demand, if it's Brad Pitt or one of these people, George Clooney, whatever, they got projects that the other project working on. So hey, I'm not available, until April, and even then I'm only available till June. So get everybody online and get together. And so they create this kind of matrix to figure out, okay, exactly on the low end, if we do this shoot here or this take here, how long is it going to take? On the high end, how long is it going to take? And then we have a rough estimate as to, how long it's going to take for that whole shoot to happen, right? We have to go, certain place. They have to figure out, timing and light. Do you guys see Dune?
Yes.
Okay, you seen Dune, the new Dune.
I
Okay,
didn't finish watching the end. I fell asleep.
you fell asleep on Dune?
I know, I was just tired. I was
Okay,
just tired.
did you watch both Dune and Dune 2?
I watched Dune 1 and then I went to the movie theater to watch
Dune 2.
but I didn't
Okay,
watch it to the end.
okay, that's
But
okay.
that's all.
It's okay. Have you guys seen the original Dune?
What is that?
Dune? It's with what's his name? Timothy Chalamet, whatever. Everybody, all the girls like Timothy Chalamet. Yeah, man, you can like, yeah, oh yeah. You didn't watch it?
It gives me like the Star Wars vibe.
Yeah. Oh, you don't like Star Wars? It's okay. Oh boy, you don't like Star Wars. Okay, it's all right. It's all right. Daisy likes Dune. Well, the movie is based off of books, of course, but it's also there's the original Dune, which was made. Yeah, I love it, but it was made in 1982, so don't laugh. That's the original Dune. I think it was 82, maybe even 70 something. All right. No, this time she was nowhere around. Okay. I don't think her parents were around then. Okay. Um, so well her parents were around definitely because I was around. So but yeah, I was around in 82, yeah. Okay. The original Dune, right? If you watch that, it's both movies in one. Okay. You get everything in that movie, in the original. And the original is my favorite. It's well done. And you guys know Sting? Sting? Sting, Sting, the singer? You don't know Sting? Boy, it's gonna be a long afternoon. What is that movie? Which one? Oh, looking at. Either way, right? So you seen Dune. That's good enough. All right, but you need to go watch Dune, all right? And stop watching Grey's Anatomy. Huh? No, you haven't watched it yet. Is it good? All right. I got a problem with her. Like, I have a hard time like with her movies sometimes. The young lady that's in, I can't remember her name. She's very distracting looking. She was in the Queen's Gambit. I don't know if it was on Netflix. She's a chess player. She's portraying someone who's a woman who's a chess player, but she's really, really good. But she's got all kind of drama in the movie. She was in what was that movie they had last year with the dinner? Um, what was it called? The Maestro? No, that wasn't Maestro. It was a movie about couples. They go to this special dinner. It costs a whole bunch of money, and they have this chef who's sadistic, who's crazy, and he is basically serving people, like he's cooking people. But you don't know that. They're dying. I think that's what it is. But she was in it. Either way, I haven't seen it, but I'm gonna watch. It's on my list of things to watch.
Is it on Netflix?
Furiosa or the
No, just about the data.
I don't know if it might be on Netflix. I don't know. Yeah, but look her up. It'll show in the credits of the her movie she's done. So I don't remember all the name, but I can't remember her name either right now. But go to Furiosa and look up her name and then look at all the movies she's been in. And it has what's his name? He's an old school actor. He's the chef. I can't remember his name. Either way, she's very distracting looking to me. It's not that she's not pretty, she's just very hard not to look at. Because her eyes are very wide apart. She has a very unique look. What's her name? Yeah, yeah, Anna Taylor Joy. Yeah, yep, Annie Taylor Joy. Yep, she's a great actress, but she's just very funny looking to me.
That's true. Her eyes are killer.
Yeah, she's pretty, but she's just very like unique looking. Like she looks like she should be like a model, like a runway model, because she's just unique. All right. Yeah. Well, modeling to me is not about good looks. Modeling to me is about being unique looking. Yeah. Yep. The Peaky Blinders. Yep. You seen Peaky Blinders? All right. We're okay now. Okay. We're okay when you got okay. All right. Because Daisy was ahead. Okay. Daisy was ahead in points. Now you guys are even. Yeah, I'm gonna watch Furiosa soon. Maybe next week when I stop moving. Oops. All right. Phase estimating, and then again um, another form or template or another way to do it. Right. This is a hybrid way. All right. You just kind of have another kind of block matrix. You have the need specific. All right. Yeah, the need, specification, design, produce, and deliver, right? And basically, these are all just timelines, right? And then phases, all right? So in phase one, this is gonna go all the way through, right? Phase two, you're not gonna start really messing with the specification till here, till you get a detailed estimate, then a macro estimate. Phase four, design is really gonna jump in here, and then phase four and five, produce and deliver, basically gives you kind of an idea of what you're gonna be doing there. Right. So this is not very detailed, it doesn't give you too much information, but and I've never actually seen this used too often. Right. So I wouldn't, break my neck too hard about it. Again, another estimate way to do it. Okay. And there's one thing, again, the project manager is going to pick the approach for most things that's most comfortable for them, right? And that they feel fits the project, right? So you can do it either way. This is not anything big. And there's a lot of documentation and just document and recording of things in project management. And so you'll have different ways to do it. And again, the software has areas and where you can just type in the notes, boom. You don't have to do all this. You just type it in and just whatever you want to assign it to, a person, a cost, a date, whatever, it'll do it for you and it'll just have it ready to go. Okay. All right. What time is it now?
406.
Okay, let's take 10 minutes and then come on back. All right. Hmm. There's another PowerPoint in this for this week, but I don't want to stick to. Hmm. Where's this stuff? All right. All right. So looking at the level of detail in WBS varies, okay, how it varies. All right, the WBS basically is the work breakdown schedule, okay? And in the work breakdown schedule, it really goes into a lot of detail about the task and who is responsible for the task, how the task is related to a certain goal or objective, and then how that goal objective is related to the overall project itself. Okay. Lots of information on there. This is where you can kind of, set the schedule for each person, put the budget in for each person, and it kind of gives you a visual graphic depiction of what's going on with each particular task and each person. So everyone can kind of see it and decide and kind of figure out, okay, um, if such a person A is working on a particular part of the project, when is that going to end? And when does mine begin, or does mine overlap with the other person's project or task, and all the other stuff that's going on? So it gives you an idea about what's going on, a quick snapshot, um, and how certain things interact, right? Because there's certain tasks within the project where you may not be able to start those until somebody else is done with their particular aspect of the task. Or maybe we can do it at the same time, and it really boils down to resources, right? Or if that project particular piece needs to be done to move on to the next thing, right? You can't really build something sometimes without having the frame. So if you're building a car, I gotta have the frame first. I gotta have, the suspension. I gotta have the engine, right? Before I kind of not necessarily move on to other parts, but I'd like to have the car put together first before I can paint it. Right? You can't do anything till the car is done, really, to add as far as paint goes. So the WBS really it lays all that stuff out. Okay. And so when you look at the WBS, you can kind of tell, you know, um, how complicated the project is. All right. You can kind of, excuse me, control a lot of things about the project as far as who's doing what, how much money they're spending, how much time they're spending on it. All right. Again, project size, cost, and duration. Okay. And then sometimes there's excessive details or a lot of information that is out there. Emphasizes the departmental outcomes rather than deliverable outcomes, right? So you may get an idea of, okay, based on the WBS, you can kind of see what the priorities are, right? Are we focused more on, building this engine or building the suspension or the transmission? What is the priority at this point in time? Okay. Create more unproductive paperwork. Okay. So sometimes, you can have more paperwork than you want, but nowadays, because we're not really churning out a lot of paperwork, it's more electronic. You may have stuff that's redundant or not necessary, but at the same time, it's better to have more information than less, right? Inadequate details foreshore the meaning of structures needs. You may not necessarily be meeting the mark, but if you're WBS, you kind of see, okay, John's working on this project, on this particular part of the project. He's done with it. This deliverable, really not up to par. So, hey, John, I need you to go back and redo it. And you have this much time, this much slack or whatever is needed. Okay. Now we're talking about cost. All right. Direct costs clearly chargeable to a specific work package. Direct project overhead costs can be tied to project deliverables or work packages. And general administrative overhead costs, not directly linked to a specific project. Examples, advertising, accounting, salary of senior management above the project level. So remember I was talking about earlier about the different costs associated with the project and the product. And so you can see, right, there are costs directly associated with the product, right? The materials as far as labor, materials, equipment, that kind of thing, right? That goes into, making the squirt, the water, the soda, the juice, whatever it is they're using. Okay. Overhead costs, excuse me, right? Tied to project deliverables, right? Or work packages. So again, we're going back to marketing, all right? Whatever else they may need to pitch it, to sell commercials, radio spots, product placement as far as, okay, where's it going to go on the shelf, that kind of thing, right? And then you have administrative costs, right? Again, advertising, accounting, salary of senior management above the project level, right? Again, when you look at the project overall and the cost, everything has to be included, even the salaries, even the payroll of the people that are involved, because I have to be able to spread that out across the unit cost of the project. Okay. So I have to make sure I account for everything as far as costs go. All right. So here's an example here. We got direct cost of 80,000, overhead at 20. Total direct is 100,000. General administration is 20,000. That's overhead. So that includes electricity, utilities, bathroom break, all that kind of stuff. Total cost is 120, right? My profit is 20% because that's our markup, okay, off 120. So the total bill will be 144, right? So that'll be the amount that I put down as far as, hey, I need $144,000 to do this project, or it's gonna take 144,000, or I'd probably round it up to 150. Right? All right, 3 views of costs: committed, actual cost, and scheduled budget. All right, this is really very important here because people are gonna be paying a lot of attention to this. All right. Now, um, this is my budget, right? My estimation, this square here, right? I estimated that, okay? Um, committed to this, okay? This is what I like to stick to, okay? This is my $5 million or whatever, right? This is what I'm scheduling or budgeting, 3 million. And the actual cost is this, right? It's actually 2 million or whatever the case may be, okay? And so you kind of get a perspective, okay, am I over or under the budget? Okay, because if it's the budget here and my actual costs are here right now, I'm pretty much, well, all the way up until here, I kind of am on budget. It looks like I'm a little bit over. No, actually, no, I'm still under. Not just a little bit under, but not by much, right? But you can see my committed, right? You look at the actual costs, they're on the same level, okay? That means basically I'm right at my money that I said I had for this project. I'm right there. Basically, the actual cost, the estimate, and the actual budget all line up. So I did pretty good, right? Not too bad. Granted, the boss may have wanted me to stay a little bit more under than what you committed, but that's okay, right? Because again, the money's committed, it's there. So we need it, we use it. And if you know anything about budgeting, if they give you a budget, you use all of it. Because if you don't, guess what happens next year's budget? You get less. Because apparently you can do more with less. Okay. Rule number one, always use up all the money in your budget. Okay. Doesn't matter. You get to the end of the year, the fiscal year, if you have $1 left, you better spend it on something. All right. Because if you don't, guess what? They gave you $1 million this year, they're gonna give you $999,999 this next year for your budget because you didn't spend it all. Right. All right, reasons for adjusting budgets, interaction costs, or hidden estimates. Again, there's things that you're not going to necessarily think of, or you will think of, you're not including in the budget, or your people are not going to think of that they need for their particular aspect. And it's not till you get into that situation that you're like, oh, we need more money for this. All right. Normal conditions do not apply, right? Something extraordinary may happen, right? You guys ever heard the term of force majeure? Force majeure. Force majeure is a term that you're probably really familiar with. You probably just know what the term means or that it is, right? Force majeure is basically a pass sort of for any company or anything that is affected by um some un what's the right word? Unforeseeable event, right? COVID, force majeure. Not really anything we can do about it. So guess what? I can't really punish you for it, right? Kind of like when you're on a plane or you have a flight and then there's a hurricane. They delay the flight, they cancel the flights. Force majeure. You really can't do anything about it. It really is up to the airlines to accommodate you the best way they can. But they can't accommodate they can't put everyone in hotel rooms, right? They go broke. So they use force majeure to say, look, this is out of our control, right? It's not a foreseeable event. Granted, yes, we know hurricanes occur, but same time, it's affecting everyone, right? So normal conditions do not apply, all right? Things go wrong on projects, that's inevitable, right? So you have to also plan for those things, like just like we talked about earlier. Project scope and plans change, right? Now, when's the only time a project scope should change? Well, not the only time. When are the times when should a project scope change? What do you guys think? The project scope, that like the goal of the project. When do you think that should change? It's not achievable. Okay. What else? Okay. You may hit a problem, right? That is causing you to be like, hey, this is not gonna work, right? Not achievable again. But project scope normally will change based on the client's preferences, client's changes. Okay. So that's usually the only time the project scope changes is really like the client comes in and says, you know what? I know we said we wanted this, but things have changed for us and we need to change the scope. We don't want this anymore, we want that. All right. And then so you'll go in and change the project scope. Okay. Along with that, you will redo an estimate, right? To kind of figure out what are the new costs associated with this change of scope. It may be less, it may be more, but there'll be a change for sure. All right. Um, don't go for, like, oh, I'm gonna be able to get it for the cheapest price possible. You want to go, hey, I'm going to, for my estimate, I'm going to use the highest price possible for this particular product or material, whatever the case may be. And if I get the budget, the estimate passed, then cool, I'll get that. And but I at least have the leeway. I can only go down from there. All right. I can only pick cheaper things from there because I've estimated this screw is going to cost me $1,000 and it's the best screw in the business. And that's the price I'm using. All right. And if they say, no, don't use that, that's okay because I can go down. All right. But I've estimated for 1,000. If I get it, then great. So at least I have $1,000 to play with. That's my ceiling, which is great. And then my floor could be anything after that. So you don't want to be too optimistic in your estimations. All right. You just want to be conservative and really be realistic and not the idealist with, oh, I got the hookup. I'm going to get this for 10 cents when everybody else is paying 50 cents for it. Okay. Now those relationships exist, right? But they usually have some strings attached to it, right? You're buying a whole bunch, you're buying volume, bulk, or there's something down the line where the person's getting a kickback or something, or some incentive as to why you're getting a better deal than anyone else, right? And then people engage in strategic misrepresentation, right? Basically, they're not really telling you what the real aim or goal is on a strategic level, right? We're doing this because we want to make this particular store better. Yeah, is that really the case, or are you using this store as an example or as a beta test because we're planning on expanding, right? Versus just, oh, we just want to upgrade the store, right? The whole point is if we can upgrade the store, do it at a certain cost, and make it look a certain way, this will serve as the template for us to do it to all the other stores. And then that way we're upgrading the whole business, right? But you may not know that necessarily up top, and so you may not invest in all maybe some of the higher finishes or some more of the more technical stuff or the faster processes. You just think that, oh, you know, I'm making a computer, and the computer someone's going to use it for, be at home, is going to game on it, right? Or not game, but they're just going to surf the net, right? When in all actuality, they're looking for something they're going to use the game with, which is a whole different computer, right? Different processing speed, all that stuff. So the strategic output or strategic goal is not clearly defined to you, right? Or you misrepresent it to be something else. Okay. Creating a database for estimating. All right. Have you any of you guys familiar with database management or used databases before? Access. I mean, you guys use databases all the time, but you never built one or anything like that. Okay. All right. So one of the key points in within project management is database management, right? Because you're gonna have to have somewhere to store all your information, all your data, right? And you will have someone manage that for you, okay? And usually, depending what it is, it's gonna be in Excel format, because that's kind of how databases work for the most part. Excel works pretty much with any database management system. And you're gonna have that secure, kind of encrypted, and really not for everyone's consumption per se, right? Certain parts of it will be, but you're really trying to protect the information and make sure that it doesn't get tampered with and that kind of thing, right? But the database is going to serve as your place to go to kind of get an understanding of what's going on, all right? Because all the information will be resident within the database. And if you're looking for something, you go to the database, right? You're going to run a query and say, look, I'm looking for the last requisition that we did for this particular keyboard. It was done on Monday, and I thought we had bought model 123, so I want to just verify. So you're gonna go to database and kind of look it up and verify and reconcile and do a whole bunch of other stuff. Okay. You guys know what reconcile means? Okay. Sort of. You can know a little bit. Not too much. Okay. Reconcile is just the process of just comparing and contrasting two different things and seeing if they line up, right? So when you like at the end of the month, whenever you do it, you may look at all the things you spent money on as compared to what you have in your head as compared to what's in your bank account, right? And you'll be like, oh, wait a minute. I thought I don't remember spending money on this, but it's in my, it's on there. So you can look and say, oh, wait a minute, I didn't buy that. You go, oh, wait a minute, somebody tacked into my account, right? So when you reconcile, you're looking for discrepancies, right? Because it's an accounting thing, and you're making sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be, okay? So you're gonna do a lot of reconciling in project management. All right, mega projects, a special case. All right, mega projects, 1 billion or more. All right, take many years to complete. You gotta be really experienced, qualified project manager to be doing mega projects. And I'm talking about like big, apartment complexes and stuff like that. Huge teams, multiple phases, lots of, paperwork, lots of, involvement by different city, local officials, stuff like that, where it's just like a really big project, sourcing all over the place, right? Super big project. So typically people don't really get into those till they get real seasoned, 5, 6, 7 years into project. And depending on what kind of project you've been handling, um, you may not get into a really big project, but this is a crazy one. And you never do it on your own. You have a team. This size of project, you'll have a team, but there'll be a head project manager, and then that person will just be more like on a strategic level, just be making sure all the pieces are done, and they'll talk to all the people that are involved in actually executing. I saw a really good documentary on. Um, they were talking about 9/11, and as part of 9/11, they were talking about how did the World Trade Center come to be, right? So it was very interesting to me because I'm from New York, so the World Trade Center has always been around since I was little. Um, and so I never thought about, okay, how did they come up with these two towers and that kind of thing? And kind of find out it was a Japanese architect, yeah, that came up with the concept of the two towers, and they didn't like him at first, but he made it work. But some of the stuff that goes into it, it was really innovative and technical, because a building at that height, there's a lot of civil engineering things that go into it, right? You got to give it sway. It has to be flexible enough to go against the wind and not bend and break, right? It has to have a good foundation. How do you protect against different things and that, right? So that was a huge project, but it was interesting to see the level of detail, all the modeling that they did, I mean, to scale. in detail. It is, you know, these little windows. I don't know if you ever seen mock-ups and actual modelings of like big projects where they bring in, you know, they have a whole model of a city carved out. Yeah, you know, something like that, right? That alone will cost you $100,000, $200,000, sometimes $1 million to do that. Just that part, right? And so it's interesting, but that's really what goes into these really big projects here. Okay. All right. What time is it? All right, we're good. Let you guys go. All right. Like I said, I have the teams thing hopefully done this weekend, so you'll have your group. Yep. It'll probably more than just you two.
Okay.
Yeah, because two. Oh, actually, no, it'll probably just be you two. Yeah, I might make it 3-3 because I think there's 6 people in this class, or maybe 7. So I might make it. Is it 6?
It's so
Yeah. If it's 6, I might make it 3-3 or something like that. Right. I'll figure it out. Get your Ellie in if you haven't got it in already. Put your quiz in by Sunday.
Are we doing this for a case study?
Is that what was on the website, on the portal?
No,
I don't remember.
so that one that's from case study.
Is it week 5? Is that a week 5? Okay, yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. Yeah. So take a look at it. And that's it. Hold on.
And then you said for the final paper,
What about it?
we just pick topic for the.
That has to do with project management. Yeah. Yep. As long as it's related to project management in some way, shape, or form, you're good.
This one?
Let me see.
Yes, I want, but if you go to the link and it takes you to the.
Oh, to the one you showed
Yeah.
her, okay.
Yep. Yeah, your paper, project management related topic or focused on project management in some aspect. Okay. All right, ladies, I'll see you next week. Okay. Have a good weekend. Watch old movies. Okay.